Hey there, and welcome back to Utility Sports Plus. In today's video, we are covering a 2023 Cleveland Browns season preview. This is an intriguing team. There's a lot of different changes in the offseason that very well could potentially move the needle for them, actually contending in the AFC North next season. If you're new to the channel, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any more Cleveland Brown football news. Now, jumping right into it here, let's have a little bit of a flashback to last season. The 2022 NFL season was full of some optimism. There was some pessimism that really went into the Cleveland Browns franchise. When you looked at it from the standpoint of the Deshaun Watson suspension that carried out throughout the course of the season. But there was some reason for hope for this team. We've seen some great progression as well. So overall, it was the start of the Deshaun Watson era. It was an exciting time for the Cleveland Browns, a true franchise level quarterback. This guy is going to be tremendous for the Cleveland Browns for years to come. Now, I know a lot of people were a little more negative. Obviously, there's some things outside of football that they were more focused on, but from an actual football standpoint, this guy is a tremendous player. Had a little bit of rust that he showcased during his season and his return. However, I think there's a ton of reason for optimism here in Cleveland in order for things to move and head into the right direction, kind of more of the trajectory that they thought they were going to be on. However, they've had a little bit of a setback here from when they had made the playoffs with Baker Mayfield. And during this time, we had seen the actual youth movement of the team. A lot of the younger guys were getting their chances at key positions. The secondary is young. This whole team is a pretty young roster, collectively speaking, which is good. And there's a lot of reason to be excited for them moving forward. Speaking of one of the young players that was a breakout, Donovan Peoples-Jones. Donovan Peoples-Jones showcased that he can be a true impact player for an organization. And we had seen that. He had amassed almost 850 yards last year. I expect for him to touch the 1,000-yard marker potentially this season. Now, this is a pretty high set of expectations that I'm putting on him. However, from the eye test and from the analytics, it shows that he very well could eclipse 1,000 yards this year. Especially another year with Deshaun Watson is going to help out this offense tremendously. And also, just once again, the dominance of Nick Chubb. This is something that almost sounds like a broken record and we take for granted a little bit, but this guy is a tremendous running back. He's an absolute punisher on defenses, and we had seen that all season long. So that's a little bit of a flashback to last season. A lot of you that are watching are Browns fans, so you were able to live this out last year. Some frustration, some reason for optimism as well. So kind of jumping into what does this team have currently that they added? Zadarius Smith in a trade with the Minnesota Vikings. This was a tremendous deal for them, considering the draft pick compensation they had given up versus the product they're going to see on the field. Zadarius Smith was tremendous in the first half of the season for the Minnesota Vikings, quickly amassing 8 sacks basically through that first half, and definitely had a little bit of a fall off on the second half of the season. But he was a big reason why they were so good last year in close games. He was clutch. Zadarius Smith as an edge rusher is going to bring a lot to this Cleveland Browns organization. He's a great character to have in the locker room. He's a fun personality for the media. He's also just a really good football player. Following that up, another former Minnesota Viking, we have Delvin Tomlinson. Delvin Tomlinson is going to help solve some of the issues on the interior of this defensive line. Delvin Tomlinson has made a really great reputation for himself in the course of his NFL career in terms of stopping the run. This is going to be a big help for this Cleveland Brown front seven, who continues to look to improve in that area. And I think they're going to be, even more improved this year. Juan Thornhill, the safety, this is a guy that's going to provide, some really good coverage. I think when you look at the tape and what he was able to do in his career, having some injuries were definitely a setback. However, Juan Thornhill should be a productive player. And then finally, we have Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore is one of those guys that I felt did not get a truly fair shake with the New York Jets. If you consider everything that had happened in that year last year, a lot was to be said about the situation in which Elijah handled it, the Jets handled it, and everybody has their opinion on what they think of him. But to me, Elijah Moore is going to be a tremendous player in this offense. He is dynamic, he's smooth, and he's explosive. He's everything that you're looking to get out of a receiver. And you look at the core that includes Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, as well as Elijah Moore. This is a terrific trio, one of the better trios you're going to see from an actual depth perspective. These are three dogs. These are three dogs that are going to make a big impact in the passing offense, and the fact that they can already run the football so effectively is why that there's a lot of reason for excitement for this team. Elijah Moore is going to be infinitely more productive going into this season than he was last year. Watch out for this Cleveland Browns offense. So those are the key additions via free agency and trades. Now we take a look at the draft picks. Some of the key ones here: Cedric Tillman, the wide receiver from Tennessee. This guy was electric. Jalen Hyatt took a lot of the glory and the fame for how awesome that Tennessee offense was. But Cedric Tillman was an unsung hero, standing at around 6'2", tremendous hands, good catch radius. This guy is going to be a machine for this team, and just an underrated part of this offense as well. So you look at, once again, the culmination of this receiving group, and I think Cleveland's got arguably some of the best depth at the wide receiver position in the league. Now, and you look across the board, adding to the trenches was a main priority here for the Cleveland Browns. Talking about DeJuan Jones is a guy that I want to highlight here, because DeJuan Jones was a projected first-round pick. I had followed him throughout his time at Ohio State. A couple of injuries and things of that nature, but ultimately selecting him in the 4th round was a tremendous steal, tremendous value. I think that when you look in totality of where this team can be, DeJuan Jones is a major player and a major building block moving forward. Even despite him being a 4th round pick, people don't realize how big of an impact he can make on this team next year. And looking at the actual offensive outlook, I tried to go ahead and get a good screenshot of the current depth chart, where they stand, and you see at that receiver position is the top highlighted one there: Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, Elijah Moore, Cedric Tillman, and some other depth behind them yet, like David Bell, Anthony Schwartz. So this is a tremendously loaded receiver room. There's a lot of guys. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a trade at some point here. Jalen Darden's one of those X factors on the roster that I want to specifically keep my eye on. Dynamic return guy. We've seen at North Texas with him. I thought he was going to be a tremendous player for Tampa Bay, and they were going to utilize him a little bit more, but he just wasn't able to break into the offensive rhythm, and he kind of fell out of favor with that coaching staff. So Jalen Darden's one I want to watch. Looking at this offensive line, holistically speaking, they are tough. You got Jedrick Wills, Joel Bitonio. I look at this unit, and it's hard not to get hyped about what they have from an offensive line perspective. One of the top units in the entire league. Luke Whippler as well, DeJuan Jones. Likely there could be an injury at some point. This is just what happens with offensive lines, but this unit is going to be battle tested. They're going to have the depth behind them, which a lot of teams just can't lose a tackle. They can't lose a Jack Conklin and supplement it with a DeJuan Jones. That's not what a lot of teams have. So overall, I love this for the Cleveland Browns. The tight end position as well, David Njoku, the highlighter there. Jordan Akins as well, Harrison Bryant. So some pretty solid depth there. Quarterback position, obviously having Deshaun Watson helps. Josh Dobbs and DTR, who they had selected, I believe that was in the 5th round of this past draft here, which I felt he could have actually gone a little bit higher than he did. Tremendous arm strength and tremendous athlete. So one of those high upside guys. And then Kellen Mond as that 4th-string quarterback likely will be waived, in my opinion. Running back position is where things get a little interesting. No Kareem Hunt heading into the year, so you're not going to see as much, in terms of a split potentially. However, maybe there might be a little bit more delegation. Nick Chubb being the bell cow back like he always is. Then you have Jerome Ford, Demetric Felton, two guys that I'm very high on. I think both of these guys could have a big impact on this offense. Demetric Felton is a tremendous pass catcher, dynamic with the football in his hands. And with increased volume, people are going to start to see the actual value that he brings to a football team. So to me, Cleveland here on offense is pretty loaded up. Defensively, looking at that, we have Myles Garrett, Jordan Elliott, Delvin Tomlinson, Zadarius Smith. Those are the highlights of that defensive line. The linebacking room, you have Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, Anthony Walker, Taki as well. This is a good linebacking unit too. So like overall, I've always felt this way about Cleveland. They have a tremendous roster because we extend that out and you have a Pro Bowl level corner in Denzel Ward, Martin Emerson, Greg Newsome at that nickelback. You got Juan Thornhill starting at one safety spot and Grant Delpit starting at the other spot. This team is pretty awesome across the board. So it's hard not to get super excited about what they have to bring. This front seven is improved from last year. The linebacking unit, I believe, is going to be better. And then in that secondary, Martin Emerson, Greg Newsome, Denzel Ward. I love that combination of the corners. They have some depth there as well. Cameron Mitchell is a name that you want to highlight. But to me, it's hard not to get super excited. So I think that when you look at what the Browns have in terms of what's on roster now, I don't think there's a ton that's going to change from now until the start of the season in terms of roster construction and signing free agents, making trades. But they are a team that you have to watch. I think they're going to be one of the more entertaining teams this year. Following that up here, I take a look at the actual Browns schedule heading into the year, and I'm looking at it as a very interesting one because this AFC North is super competitive. I ended up having them finish out at 9-8, and there's a couple of games that are toss-ups that they're on the road. It's going to be tough. Baltimore on the road, Seattle on the road, those kind of teams. But, some of those locks I feel are going to be Chicago and Houston, despite Houston being actually somewhat competitive against some of these good teams. 9-8. I think there's going to be a little bit of a progression here, a couple win progression from last year. But to me, it makes a lot of sense for the Cleveland Browns to move into this spot. I think there's a real possibility that they go 10-7 too. That is just a flip of one game. And it's very difficult for me to pinpoint how these AFC North games are going to be played. I think they're going to steal, quite a few games from the division, actually, that is very talented, very tough. I think, Pittsburgh, they're going to actually take care of business. Cincinnati is a tough one. They very well could split there, and Baltimore as well. I think there could be a split. So they're going to get their divisional games. They're going to go ahead and beat some of these other teams from that NFC West. To me, Arizona and the Rams are ones that I definitely see the Browns taking. So in totality, I have them going 9-8. It's a fun team to watch. There's a lot of reason for optimism heading into the season, and they probably will outdo that record prediction. I was really stuck between that 9-8, 10-7, and if all things go well, they can progress, potentially to that 11-win mark. So overall, this is a good team. This is a very good football team in a very loaded division. That is something that we do have to take in consideration. Had they been in the AFC South, this is a completely different story, in my opinion. They would have been favorites to absolutely run away with the division. But Cincinnati's tough, Baltimore's always tough, Pittsburgh's tough, and that is where I have them going. So if you did enjoy the video, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any more Cleveland Brown football. I had a lot of fun recording. Let me know in the comment section below who you think will be the breakout player for the Browns in 2023.